And happy Friday, happy end of the week. So it's another week down and another week of trying to hold support. So we are going to look at the pre-market first and just looking at the initial reaction. It's the SPY is down like 3 points here, but we did see things down a little bit yesterday too, a little bit lower, around the same price really. So is this something to worry about? Well, let's go dive in here. Good morning, low gains. And with that, let's see. So we do have that 561.48. So that is going to be the target again to close the weekly candle above, just like it did last week, right? There was a lot of panic last week and it did close above. Right now, there's still more uncertainty out there, but it's still above it even pre-market. So that is going to be my main focus for the rest of the day. Also, the 50-week moving average is still there at 565.49. Not sure if that's going to be possible to close back above today, but we'll see, right? We'll see if it can actually get back above those levels later on and have maybe an end of day rally, perhaps. And with the QQQ, this one is also just stuck in a range as well. You got the 472.65 and you got the 486.08 up here. So no change from last week, same range really, but it is making some slightly higher lows, right? The wick of this candle didn't go lower, so it's still kind of building a nice little base here, perhaps trying to go higher. So I think we're just looking at more time really. There's still more time to get towards this Ichimoku cloud here to the right in the future. So just be patient with this, but all of this still looks pretty normal. Everything is also still higher lows from before. So the market structure is nothing really to worry about at the moment. And with the IWM, this one is also going back to that 203 again, the 203.07. And still lots of support below that in the low 200s, 199 as well. But it did close a little bit last week below that 203, but this week we are looking like we have the potential to close above it. And I think if this can have a nice end of day rally, perhaps it can even get closer and closer to the top of the cloud. So we'll see. That'd be around 211 or so. But is this a scary pre-market action? Actually, I think it's better to open up red than it is open up green, because that leaves a lot more possibilities to go higher, especially when things are all still above support. So I think there is potential, and I believe today is like quadruple witching or whatever you want to call it today too. So it has the potential to be volatile, and volatility can be to the upside as well. All right. So yeah, we'll jump into some of these requests here. XYZ seems to be recovering. So we'll go check out XYZ. That's a T, not a Y. All right. XYZ is it recovering? It's trying to. It's really trying to. And the thing that I wanted to hold the most right here was this arc at the bottom, but it did not do that. And now it's getting rejected by it. It was a previous resistance. It was trying to be a support initially, but it broke below. Now it's still a resistance. So that's going to be the focus to close back above, because if it can't get back above it, it could even gravitate back down to like $48, right? So we'll see, right? 61.40, 61.50, that zone. Let's see if it can actually get above those levels today to continue its journey back higher. But in the meantime, it's still making higher lows from the August 5th low here. So it still has potential to recover. Yeah, so it could be recovering, but it's got to get above some of this lost support. Now flip to resistance. Good morning, HIMS, please, and thank you. Yeah, so we'll take a look at HIMS too. And HIMS, I think what's important to look at is just the linear scale here, because the log scale, it lost all this support up here. So on linear scale, we can see that price is just stuck in a range, and it's stuck right in between the 1.272 and the 1.414. And it's been holding that 31.57 for the past couple of weeks. So it's looking like it broke out, right? Got rejected before at the 34.79, came back down to the 25, just skyrocketed up straight up to the 2.618. And now it's just going back down to this last fib extension, right? So I think it really has potential to hold there. throughout the weeks to come and maybe just buy a little bit of time because it still is kind of extended from the cloud here. So it does have potential to recover. And I think 31.57 could be a good support zone for HIMS. Good morning. What do you think of GAMB? GAMBgambling.com. Initial reaction, I mean, it's looking like higher highs and higher lows, so that's a good development. And if we just did a fib from the high to the low down here, we can see that it's actually also trying to maintain that 618. So yeah, I mean, this is the zone to recover. It already went back to the 50%, so I think that has reached its higher low it was looking for. So now the main focus, the primary focus is going to be staying above this 1302 and also the baseline there at 1318. So close the week above those, then I think the road to recovery above in the 14s could be possible. So GAMB is looking better and better, and $13 is kind of required to hold just to maintain this stability and be able to go higher, because if it starts to slip underneath there again, it could retest the lower levels one more time. So just pay attention to $13. All right, Palantir. Yeah, we'll take a look at Palantir here. I got my log-based fibs here with the Ichimoku, and that is really what it's stuck in between. So 78.13 and 104, that's kind of your in between the log fibs. And then we got the baseline at 80.73 and the conversion line at 98.01, which is even a tighter range that is currently working on. So is it looking like it's going to fall and collapse or anything? No, not yet, right? It's holding support. Pre-market, it is down, but so is the rest of the market. But again, it has lots of room to even go down further to still maintain its weekly and high time frame support. So I'm not too concerned about Palantir at this moment because it is one of the few ones that is holding all weekly levels of support. So, and the level of last resort really is the 78.13 before it falls into the 60s again. But I think that has a good potential to hold since there's a nice wick through it last week and it did recover nicely. So just maintain above that level, then I think Palantir will be okay. And yeah, we'll jump into Coinbase. Is it going to finish the week off better and better? Well, it's stuck, right? It's stuck underneath the arc right here now, which is around 192. And it's stuck above the cloud, right? We can put on the Ichimoku cloud here. And it's stuck right above it too. So that bottom of the cloud is around 177.49. Then we can even add the SMAs on there too, just to show you the 100-week moving average is still below there. So if Bitcoin did struggle around this 84,000 and then got rejected again and went down, then perhaps Coinbase and all the other ones would go down with it one more time. But I see it just in a range now, just like everything else, between the 170s and the 190s. That's really the range right here. And nothing's really going to be too exciting, in my opinion, for Coinbase until this 197.27 actually gets broken as a resistance right here. So once that gets broken as a resistance, then I think it has a lot more room to go higher. But until then, it might be range bound for perhaps more weeks ahead. And yeah, let's just jump into MicroStrategy since we're on that topic too. Of if Bitcoin can't get above this 84,000, then MicroStrategy can't do this, right? MicroStrategy really needs to close above this blue level today to have an attempt to continue higher. But if it doesn't close above it today, then it's still going to be a resistance, and that means it has the potential to also go back down to retest lower levels as well. So don't get too excited about all of this stuff right now because it's still a resistance zone and Bitcoin is still stuck under 84,000. So if Bitcoin's still stuck under 84,000, then nothing exciting with crypto related stuff is going to happen at all. So that is that. We'll look at SoFi too. Yeah, SoFi, that's the range it's stuck in, right? basically everything you can see in the stocks and crypto is basically stuck in a range. And it's underneath the baseline there at 13 bucks, also underneath that log based fib at 1369. So yeah, essentially this whole channel right here, this whole wedge, I guess you can call it, is the range, right? It can go to the top end, it can go to the bottom end, it can go to the top end, it can just do whatever until maybe it gets closer to the cloud. And that range is essentially around $11 all the way up to 1369. And to get any kind of momentum back, really, I would love to see it back above that $13 baseline. But until then, it's still you're going to be your resistance, which means your 45-degree angle right here is really your support level for price. So it could come back down there, retest it before going higher, but it doesn't change the high time frame scenario at all because this is still a very big breakout and a nice little back test. I think that was the higher low it was looking for. So now it's just time to wait for it to consolidate before breaking the 1369 above. And yes, TSM, I will do that one next. So TSM, Taiwan Semi, it's one of those that lost a lot of support recently, and it all broke down really once it started flipping this 209.77, this 1.414 to a resistance again, right? It broke down, resistance, resistance, and then it really broke down, and then it broke below the 184. And then after that, it was kind of more and more bearish. And now we see it stuck under even more previous support, now flipped to resistance of the 50-week moving average and the green level of the GAN here, which kind of implies that it's really, really stuck. And I'm not convinced that it really wants to continue its rebound yet until maybe it attempts to touch the cloud. So when it tries to touch the cloud, I think that'll be the chance to find a recovery, maybe something like what NVIDIA did. But that means this week or next week, it could even go back down to like the 160s and touch the cloud before trying to go higher. Or it could just go sideways for a couple of weeks and then touch the cloud here and then try to go higher. But there's probably not going to be any attempt to break through this resistance until the cloud gets touched. So this is going to be a patience game as well, just like everything else. And with that said, I cannot see any recovery until maybe lower support is touched first. Nice chart on Bitcoin price projections. Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin, it does look good for the future, but in the short term, Bitcoin is just stuck, right? And this is clearly, it went back up to the 45-degree angle, got rejected. Now it's even getting rejected again by the 84,112 baseline. And Bitcoin right here at 83,558, it's trying to maintain that as a support at least. But yeah, Bitcoin, there's really not going to be any fireworks or excitement for Bitcoin until it gets back above, I think, this 91,158, the 1.414. So it's got some range, right? It's got some range, but in the meantime, it's really struggling at current price, which means it could just be more time until it gets closer to this weekly cloud before it really wants to do anything. So again, more patience, more patience. And HIMS, I already did HIMS. You can go back and watch it. BBAI. BBAI. So BBAI, we can see that it went right back down to the cloud here, and now it is trying to hold. So that cloud is really around current price, maybe 299, 297, 296. And ultimately, what happened was this 786 was a massive rejection, and it came back down. So it did try to break it and flip it to support, but that did not work. And then it was just week after week after week of bearish candles. But I think it's actually getting back down to some support now. And that support really is right around current price. And could it go a little bit lower to these averages down here? Sure, why not? But I think this has a good chance of holding, mainly because you look in the past and this 50% 306 fib really was a previous resistance zone before the breakout. So it's a breakout and a back test of a previous resistance zone and on top of support. So it looks kind of optimistic right there after that massive breakout and back test. Good morning, Vivian. Could I do JVO? Yeah, I haven't actually looked at JVO in a while. So JVO is actually at the same situation, right? It did try to hold this 181, but it just came back and got rejected, and so it went right back down to find some of the support down here, and it is holding that 100-week moving average at 124. So that 124 could be the opportunity right now for price to recover, but not sure if it's really going to stay above this cloud in the future. So if it can't get back above this 181 sooner or later, then it's probably going to start to go underneath the cloud and everything will be a lot more resistance. And then it probably might be stuck for a longer period of time. So with that said, I don't think there's really any kind of catalyst for it to explode right now because every time it goes back up to this range, there's a lot of resistance and there's proof of this 200-week just getting rejected all the time too. So I think it might just be stuck for a while, right? I think it had a massive move, a big breakout, and now it's just time to do nothing for a while, and probably it's going to drift underneath the cloud here and just stay there for a while in this range between the 120s and maybe the $2 range. I think that could be stuck in that range for some time. So Fubo TV, this is was a big breakout, right? We saw that it gapped up huge, but got rejected at that 444. And because of that rejection right here, it came back down. And we can assume now that perhaps the top of the cloud could be the destination, right, for a back test. Almost did it back here in February. Not quite. So 240s could be the target. Or even a little bit lower to the 100. So it's stuck really in the middle of a range. And when things are more in the middle of a range, I'm more cautious with that. So this is essentially the target, right? Right there is the target, 240s. And MSTU, I already did MSTR, so if MSTR is at resistance, then so is MSTU. So I don't really need to focus on the derivatives on this show. I just like to focus more on the underlying securities because those matter the most. But we can go take a look. Yeah, we haven't looked at Tesla yet, right? So let's just look at Tesla. So Tesla pre-market is kind of flat, doing the same thing it did yesterday, right? It's down. It was up a little bit. Now it's down a little bit. And that's the angle that I'm focused on the most. So I would like to see that angle close above, right? And that's right around 237, 238. And if not, it still is in the same vicinity because we've seen it before where price closed below that angle, then it just maintained it. So I think regardless of where price closes, this angle probably is going to be a magnet for price, whether it closes lower or higher. It could just be stuck around that angle for some weeks before attempting to go higher. So Tesla, I think, is still in the bottoming process now because of market symmetry, right? We can just ignore everything else from the cloud to that because it likes to break through fibs and levels all the time, but it usually always respects the market symmetry. And this previous resistance of the arc, and it's trying to be a magnet for price as well. So it's kind of a battle between the angle and the arc right now, but it's like getting into a very wedgy situation here. So I think it's just establishing a base, establishing its higher low for the second week in a row. And do I think it can go lower? At the moment, I think this market symmetry is telling us something and that we should pay attention to it. It's telling us that no matter what, this looks like it wants to be a magnet for price. So Tesla, probably one of the better opportunities since it's closer to support than anything else. Could I look at Root? Yeah, I'll look at Root for you. Okay, Root. So I had an arrow there already waiting for it. Right. The 786, I think it wants to be the destination, right? That is 179.04. That's probably going to be a big, massive resistance because this zone all the way up to the green up here in the 240s, this zone is probably going to be tough to break the first try. So what we could see is maybe a little bit more up before down, but things like to backtest levels, right? Let's just look at the trend. It broke out, and when it went to the 618, then it backtested the 50. Then it went up to the 702 right here, and then it backtested the 618. So if it goes up to the 786 here, gets rejected, guess what? It might backtest the 702. before attempting to go higher. So that's been the trend. So the trend is your friend. So it's getting closer to resistance. So the closer it gets, the more cautious I would get, because it could backtest at any time before attempting to go higher. And yeah, TSLL, I just did Tesla, so we're just going to focus on the underlying assets, not the derivatives today. And let's go take a look at Robinhood. Yeah, Robinhood. So Robinhood still above the 40.06. So I think these fibs are really all we need to pay attention to, because it was one of those big breakout to the 886, big rejection up there, and then a back test of the ARC and the 702. So this is also stuck in a range between $40 and $50. And right now it's getting back closer to support down here. So any chance of getting back to the low 40s, high 30s, I think could be really the opportunity for Robinhood, because it looks like this could have been the higher low right here on March 10th that it was looking for. And yeah, we'll do AMD. And AMD, you know, I've been talking about this for a long time. Just this market symmetry on the monthly chart alone, right? This is beautiful, right? It's a big breakout. It's finally reached its higher low, it looks like. We can even combine the Ichimoku cloud right there as well. And that is the top of the cloud that it hit, right? So now we have some room to just stay in a range, right? Maybe it could be a bottoming process for a little bit longer. Maybe it could go back down to the 100 or the 90s again. But I think this is all the bottoming process for price to eventually go back up. So AMD, I cannot be bearish on it here, but I did prefer it closer to 100, and I actually bought underneath 100. I added more to my position down there. So I am looking for price to recover nicely. All right, we'll do a couple more before I run away here. So could I look at sports betting ENT? ENT. Entain. Maybe this one, the LSE. Yeah, Entain PLC. There we go. It fell after some bad news damaging reputation, but they also worked together with MGM USA. Well, the chart is attempting to recover, right? It's attempting to recover right here, but it's currently not holding that conversion line. So 666.4 is really what's necessary to maintain any shorter term momentum for that, for Entain. Because if it starts to close back below that conversion line, then it's at risk of going lower again, right? We need to hold some kind of support, and right now it can't. It can't even stay above this 236 either, the 729.40. It tried to get above there as well, but it couldn't. So there's really no momentum just yet on this one, but it is trying, right? It's trying to stabilize on top of that conversion line. So yeah, just watch that 666.4. If that can close candles above it, then it can be better. But if not, then this has potential to continue lower. So Entain, just be cautious with this one, because the market structure is not so bullish, right? It's lower highs, lower lows. So it's not looking like it's ready to break out just yet. But if it ever could stabilize on top of this 729 fib, then I think it would have a chance to continue higher. And PBF Energy, this one is looking like it's getting weaker and weaker, right? It just broke below the cloud. The cloud should have acted as some kind of support. It tried to, but it broke below it. So that ultimately kind of means that maybe it's time for price to go a little bit lower. We can do a little bit of a fib here as well. And it's trying to maintain the 618, right? So that is the goal to look at. We can also add on some moving averages too, just to see. And all those averages got cut right through like butter. So it's not really that bullish anymore, but it is this 618 right here at 2007. You can see it's kind of a floor, right here, floor, 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 and it's hitting that low down here. So this has potential. So I think this is kind of your line in the sand right here. If price ever starts to close back below that 2007, then I think things get a little bit more scary. But if it can stabilize on top of that 2007, then it has a chance to recover. But even if it has a chance to recover, it's got a lot of resistance above now. So I don't really see it going higher than this 786 in the moment, maybe 31. There's a lot of resistance that are a lot of support that broke. So every time it goes back up in that range, it's probably going to get rejected again. So we can just call it range bound between the 786 up here at 31 and the 618 2007 until either one of those break. And yeah, I'll do the last one here, WGS, before I go. It's been an eventful morning. So, wow, looks like a V, right? I do have some fibs already on here, and the 7026 is looking like it wants to be support. And it actually has been support every single week since it broke out in October of 2024. Right. So this is looking like, we'll go to the weekly chart. Yeah, even on the weekly chart, it's looking like it has potential to maintain above the 200-week moving average and the conversion line there at 87.11. So that is looking better and better. All right. Better and better. So the next goal to overcome is 122.72. And if that gets flipped to a support, then I think it goes to the 200s. But until then, it's just trying to build a base on top of this redefined support. So let's just pay attention to that 200 week 80.26, maintain above that. Then I think this has the potential to eventually break this resistance above. So with that, guys, I'll end it right there. And again, what we're looking at with the SPY, right now it's going lower below that 561. I am looking for that recovery today to stay above the 561.48. If it cannot do it, then things get a little bit more uncertain, right? If it closes below that, then perhaps it goes lower in the weeks to come. But if it can reclaim it today, then I think there is a possibility of a recovery. So just going to take baby steps of all of this, right? See how things close today. Don't take this initial reaction as super scary yet. But if things close below levels today, then we do have to prepare for more down in the future. So very important to watch today. All right, guys. With that said, I'll see you next week and have a great, great weekend.